Hey, what is up everyone? Season 8 starting in less than a week. I think it's a good time for us to go back and take a look at Season 7 and just talk about my thoughts with the season as a whole. So Season 7 I think had a lot of hype going into it. Maybe too much hype. I feel like I kept my expectations reasonable, but I think the main problem was of how delayed it was. So by the time that the season came out, it was already in August and it was supposed to come out at the beginning of the summer. It was basically towards the end of the summer. And I think by that point, people were just kind of fed up with it. And the reception to the update, while people liked it, I don't think it was as good as Rare hoped. Let's talk about what we actually got for this season. So I'm not going to go over every single little detail, but some of the big things that I think are important are captainships. Obviously, that's probably the biggest thing for this season. With that came with naming your ship, trinkets. Trinkets I think are really cool. We'll get into that in a little bit. Milestones. Milestones are also another really cool thing. Side mention though with that is I think it was a mistake for them not to retroactively keep the milestones from before, because I think it's kind of annoying if you've done things like killed a bunch of the megalodons or something like that and you don't have those trinkets to show it. I think that's a little bit annoying, but I get that they kind of wanted this to be a fresh start and most of the stuff is related to the ship specifically and not to your character. Y'all can debate about that in the comments below. I'm kind of mixed on it. I would have liked to have seen some of the milestones carry over from previous things that we've had happen before the season came out. Some other stuff we got was the Shipwright got an upgrade, being able to buy like a bunch of supplies and stuff, and the new captain voyages. We have the Logbook, which I'll be honest, didn't meet my expectations. We'll get into that in a little bit. We have the Sovereign. They're pretty interesting to talk about. Of course, we got a new Season Pass and a Plunder Pass, as well as Emissary Ledger rewards. Some gameplay stuff we got was washed up stools. Stools I think are a really cool addition this season. They did a lot of balancing with like spawn camping and stuff like that to help balance it out and help solo players. So things like not being able to revive your crewmates while you're on an enemy ship, and changing the time that it was for like different groups of players on the ships. So if you're, say, a solo player or maybe you're a duo player, you're going to have less time on the ferry than, say, a group of 4. Other things they did was they changed the sloop mast so that it took 2 shots with the chain shot to take it down, as well as disabling the sloop mast from being friendly fired, and reducing the cannonball knockback. So I think there was a lot of great gameplay additions that were changed here, and I think it really helped with balancing the game a bit more. So I will say that for this season, that it really did help balance the game, which I think is important when we see what's coming up in Season 8, that we know is going to be all PvP focused. I feel like that was all leading up to that. I feel like Rare took Season 7 to prepare for Season 8 by getting all the stuff ready for PvP to be a focus, so that we weren't going to have as much problem with spawn camping and sloops not being able to be balanced and all that kind of stuff. Of course, there was a bunch of little updates that would happen during this season, but why don't we go ahead and focus on our big updates and go and talk about them individually. So first I want to talk about the Season Pass and the Plunder Pass. So the Season Pass, I'll be honest, I'm not that big a fan. There wasn't really that much I was interested in. Usually the Pirate Ledger rewards each season is what I'm really excited for. And while I really do like Merrick's jacket, the cut list for the tier 100 reward was kind of lackluster for me. When I started using it, it just looks like a stick to me. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it, but I do think it's cool to have Merrick's cut list in the game. There wasn't really that much that stood out to me for the free pass this season. No real cosmetics that I could be like, wow, this is great, I'm gonna use it. Other than I think it was like a coconut tankard. I thought that was like a very unique idea. In terms of the Plunder Pass though, I got the Plunder Pass this season, and honestly, it's kind of sad. The best part of the Plunder Pass for me this season was something that wasn't even supposed to be included with it. So they had the Bayful Bloom costume that came with this season's Plunder Pass, and when the season came out, they put the wrong emote with it for like the built-in emote that was supposed to be for the costume. And it was like this fire torch spinning thing or whatever. And then a month later in the September update, or it might have been like late August update. They changed it so that if anyone bought the Plunder Pass before that update, you got that emote for free, and then you got the actual thing that was supposed to be built into the costume. And the emote that's built in is a lot less interesting to me, but I'm really happy that they gave us the other emote for free because it looks really cool and now you can use it with any character. Other than that, in terms of the ship set that we got with the Plunder Pass, I'm not too impressed with any of it. None of it has stood out to me and wanted to use. I don't really like the sails. The wheel is okay, the anchor is interesting. I don't know if I really like it or dislike it, it's kind of just there in my mind. The cannons I would never use just because of how they're designed, but that's not a surprise. If you've watched me for a long time, you know that I'm very picky with cannons and flintlocks in terms of what I use. And then the figurehead is just really nothing to write home about. I say this every time we talk about the Plunder Pass, but I'm getting really annoyed with the collector's variants of the different things, because I feel like they're just making the Plunder Pass feel a little bit cheaper. Because one, the collector's variants of these things are not that good, plus they have the regular versions which are even worse. Now, you might be thinking in your head, yeah, of course, that's what the collector's version is supposed to be. But if you look at the collector's variants of the stuff in the Plunder Pass compared to what's in the Emporium, it's a big difference. The ones that are in the Emporium that are collector's variants usually are animated, they glow, they have all these cool things. The ones in the Plunder Pass that we get are nothing like that. I think they just put the title of collector on there just to make you feel like you're getting a premium thing. But I'm getting really disappointed by the Plunder Pass, and I think they need to do something more. Either give us what they've been doing, but give us a full 1,000 ancient coins with the Plunder Pass each season, or keep the price that you have, keep the 500 ancient coins you get from both the free pass and the Plunder Pass, but add more to it, or just make better rewards. Get rid of the non-collector's variants, make the collector's variants good, and then instead of having those two non-collector variants for the figurehead and the sails, put something else in there. We used to get emotes in the past. We used to get, I think we got like tattoos or scars one time, I can't remember. But we used to get interesting things for like the first few seasons of the game, and then they changed to a model where they had just like a ship set and then a costume. And I'm really just not liking it. I would love to see maybe getting some weapons or something. I think, honestly, if you want to make the Plunder Pass valuable, make it tied to whatever the season's theme is. Give us weapons, give us ship set, give us costume, and maybe like a equipment or emote that goes with it. All that together in the Plunder Pass. That would be an amazing value. And I wouldn't even complain about the ancient coins at that point, honestly. Just keep what it is now. But you gotta give us something more, because the ship set and the costume are just not doing it. Especially since, like, I'll be honest, the costume's not that good this season. I think the final version is interesting looking, but I'm just not going to use it that much compared to a lot of the other costumes that we can get, especially now that we're seeing that we're getting a skeleton curse this coming season in Season 8. Why would you want to use any costume when you could use a skeleton curse? That's just kind of my thought. I think we've talked enough about that. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the Plunder Pass and the free season pass this season. And do you agree with me about the Plunder Pass? Do you think they should add more, or do you think it's fine the way it is now? But next, let's look at owning a ship. So this is the big owning, buying your captain's ship, being able to name it, all that kind of stuff. And this, I think, is really great. A lot of people I know, when the season first came out, they were upset. They thought this should have been something that was locked to Pirate Legends and be kind of more like endgame content. And I'm kind of happy they didn't do it that way. I think the way they implemented this is really good, actually. So that basically you can buy each of the 3 ships. So you can buy a sloop, a brig, and a galleon. All have ranging of various prices. And then you have to upgrade that ship by leveling it up and doing milestones, which we'll talk about soon. And then you can buy another ship afterwards. I think that's all great. One little side thing, which, you know, I get it, microtransactions, they gotta do it, live service game or whatever. I think it's kind of crappy that you have to pay to rename the ship if you wanted to. I don't know. I get it. I mean, it's probably expected since you have to pay to do the pirate curse thing to change your pirate's look too. So I'm not that surprised, but it was a little sting just to see that. I'm just like, ugh. you really have to think about this first before you just randomly name your ship. So let's get into what you can actually do with these captain ships. And the main thing is customization. So we can name the ship, and I think it's really cool. I know a lot of people have been having problems though. I saw a lot of people getting banned and in trouble and stuff for like inappropriate names. And I know those bans have not been equal between different groups of people. I'm not going to get into all that drama, but I will say that I think Rare needs to apply the rules fairly and make the rules clear of what you can and can't do. Because I've seen some of them that got banned and I was just like, that's not really a big deal. I've seen other people that have had stuff like that and haven't gotten banned. So maybe if you're a future nose for Rare, maybe make the rules a bit clearer about what you can and can't have. So you got to name your ship. We also got trinkets added. Trinkets I think are really cool. Now, I talked earlier about how I was kind of annoyed that we didn't have access to the trinkets that we would technically have unlocked if we were progressing our milestones previously before the season came out. So like stuff like the Megalodon trinkets and stuff I still don't have access to because I really don't have a reason to fight Megalodons anymore. So there's stuff like that that's a bit annoying, but it's okay. I really like getting like the little portraits and stuff and hanging them up in my ship, and all that's really cool. I think one thing with the trinkets though, it's kind of annoying that they're only below deck. I get maybe there's like some technical reasons why they can't have it above deck, but it would have been cool to have like on the sloop and stuff, maybe one like in the corners, like either side of the anchor and stuff, maybe one on the little like bar next to the wheel, just things like that. I think would have been cool to have customized, because if you just looked at your ship while on top of the deck, where you're going to be most of the time because you're going to be sailing and shooting cannons and that kind of stuff, you wouldn't really notice that's a captain's ship. It's only until you go down below deck that you notice. So yeah, trinkets are really cool. I really do love getting like all the pictures and stuff because I think the art in Sea of Thieves is really nice. So I'm really liking some of the stuff that I've been able to acquire. I know one thing that was very annoying, which there's not really a way to get around it. I understand why we can't have it, but it is kind of annoying and I have to address it because this is a review. The sloop obviously is not as great for captaincy compared to the galleon. The galleon has way more customization options in terms of different curtains, all sorts of different stuff that you can have in it. Like you have like the little lighting inside and things like that. And it just feels like the sloop and even the brig just don't have that much to offer in comparison. I really do enjoy it and I would definitely not want to get rid of it. I think the captain ships and all the customization really does help give the ship more of a feeling that you actually own it and it's actually your ship, and not just like I used to compare it as like a rental almost. They did other stuff with this to kind of make it still feel like it is your ship and that the ship progresses with you, like having it so that the ship shows damage even when you leave the server and you come back, you'll still see the damage on your ship unless you get it repaired by the Shipwright. So stuff like that is cool. I will say it does get kind of annoying because I kind of just want to hop in and just see my nice beautiful ship and not have to pay gold every time I want to see that nice looking ship, but whatever, it's not a big deal. Speaking of the Shipwright got a bunch of new stuff added to it. So the Shipwright got captain voyages and it got the ability to have basically a bunch of different supplies on it. So you can buy stuff like fire bombs and blunder bombs from it. You can buy bait, raw meat. The only thing you can't buy is chain shot. I feel like you can buy everything except for chain shot from her now, which makes sense because honestly chain shots are really valuable in Sea of Thieves. So I'm sure they don't want to have like people that are just going and buying a bunch of chain shot and just lighting people up, because that would make very annoying. So if y'all were watching my channel when the season first started, you'll know that I was kind of critical on the voyages and the supplies that the Shipwright was offering. Now, back when I'd made that video, I feel like people kind of missed the point of the video. It wasn't to say like that this was terrible and they shouldn't have added it. I was never saying that. I was just trying to show which was a better value. Now, I really do think that having the supplies there is nice. I would still just grab both from the merchant and from the Shipwright, and just get both of them if you want to have a lot of supplies. I think that's going to be very essential when the PvP stuff comes in Season 8. But in terms of the voyages, I'll be honest, I really don't use the captain voyages at all. But I'm also not someone that really does voyages that often. So I'm not really the target audience for this kind of thing. So definitely let me know in the comments below if you like Captain Voyages or you're kind of just over it. When I tried the Captain Voyages out, they just felt like regular voyages that I would buy from the different trading companies. So I really did not see the point of it other than having it stored on the ship rather than your person. Which I found kind of annoying, to be honest, because we would have times where I'd buy a bunch of Captain Voyages for the sloop that I was on, but then you get another person that came in and they're like, oh, now we gotta hop on a brig or a galleon. And then I get on there and oh, all my voyages are not there anymore because they're not on my person, they're on the ship. Things like that are kind of annoying, but that's just what you get for this kind of system. But yeah, like when they sold it to us, they really kind of brought up the whole idea that these were going to be smaller voyages that you could be more predictable with, and I got really excited for that. And then when trying it out, it just wasn't like that for me. It literally was basically the same voyage exactly as if you were to buy it from one of the trading companies. I was really excited to try to do it with Athena's, like doing the Legend of the Veil. I was really hoping I could just do like certain parts of the Legend of the Veil voyage. Like say maybe I want to do like a shipwreck graveyard. I could just pick that one out and go directly to it, but that's not how it works. We'll talk about it a little bit later with the Sovereign as well, but with the Captain Voyages, one of the points I made with the season first starting was that it felt like season 7 was really just cutting out the trading companies completely. I don't know about y'all, but I have not talked to the Gold Hoarders, the Order of Souls, or the Merchants at all this season, other than to get some supplies from the Merchants with the crates. But I haven't gone to sell them anything, haven't gone to get any voyages from them. It just kind of feels like they're being abandoned by the game. Let's go ahead and talk about the Sovereign right now, since I'm kind of talking around it and it's very included in this conversation when I have. So the Sovereign got added this season. I really like the feature, but it's kind of like one of those things where, say you're trying to go on a diet and then you buy a pound of ice cream at the store and you're just eating it. Yeah, it tastes great, but you know it's not good for you. The Sovereign make it so that, one, PvP is a little bit worse at Outpost, because there used to be a lot of fun and like stress, and stress sounds bad, but I think stress can be good sometimes, because when you could accomplish something that's really highly stressful, it feels very satisfying. Before, with Outpost battles, you'd have to run across the island with your treasure to try to sell it, and then there might be people attacking, maybe you're the ones attacking, or you're the ones defending, and I think it's just a very exciting experience at the Outpost, because it's kind of like do or die moment. You either do it now or you lose everything. You kind of can have that with the Sovereign, but the Sovereign make it so fast to sell, because you literally just have like the harpoon at the top, or you can even dock a robo right next to it, and it's just so quick to sell there that these battles are basically gone completely. I haven't really had any of these anymore, other than like a few times, and that was like right before they got to the Sovereign's tent rather than them already being there. And for me, I just find that a little sad. That doesn't mean that the Sovereign are terrible, doesn't mean that I hate the Sovereign. I actually really like the Sovereign. I use it a lot to sell there unless I'm selling to Reapers, so I think it's still good if you want that extra benefit of being a captain ship. But the other problem is, and it's the same thing with the Captain Voyages, it completely cuts out the trading companies, because now you don't sell to them and you don't get voyages from them. So I don't know if Rare is trying to prepare for something where like we get rid of the trading companies completely and it's just going to be the Shipwright and the Sovereign to like do everything. I don't think so, because they still need something for the newer players that don't have captain ships. But for the vast majority of players, it's not too hard to get a captain ship or play with someone that does have a captain ship. You might be thinking to yourself, who cares about the trading companies? They're not real. They're just kind of there, and they're kind of annoying to sell to anyways, especially on like islands like Daggertooth, where they're such a far run from the dock to get to them. I really think there's something special about taking your treasure and selling it to them specifically. I don't know. I really do have a lot of mixed feelings with the Sovereign, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on it now that we've had a full season to have them in the game and play with them and stuff. I am interested to see what happens with the Sovereign, because we saw at the beginning of the season they dropped teasers that the trading companies were like very hesitant with the Sovereign and that the Sovereign might not have good intentions, and I'd be really interested to see if anything comes from that. I could totally see that being something for season 9, but as of right now there's nothing really in the game for it. and I really do hope that the trading companies get something to reinvigorate them. Moving on to probably one of my biggest highlights for this season, and this is Milestones. So it's something that I was really praising when the season first came out, and now that we've had a full season to play with it, I'm still really happy with it. So Milestones are basically, it keeps a permanent record of your accomplishments on any captain ship. There's milestones that are specific to the ship and the crew on it, and there's milestones that are specific to just your pirate. So these can be like any type of things, such as like shooting cannonballs, dying, bucketing your ship, anything really, eating food. I mean, it's just fun stuff, and just looking at your record and seeing like, oh wow, I've done a lot of playing shanties today, and things like that are really cool to see. And I think it's a great system that Rare can build upon going forward, because now that they have the system in place, it shouldn't be too hard for them to add, say, a PvP alignment, which is alignment, if you don't know, is basically like the different groups that they have. So like the Gold Seekers is alignment, the Rogue is alignment, whatever. The PvP stuff was lacking this season, I think because they were preparing to add it in Season 8. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see new milestones related to PvP next season. I feel like milestones are way better in comparison to what we used to have for this kind of stuff, which was commendations. Commendations were cool for a while, but the problem with those are, it's basically just a track to get an achievement, and then once you get that achievement, it stops tracking. Whereas milestones, they're basically infinite. You don't have a limit of how much you can earn for a particular milestone. So it just will keep tracking that even if you're hitting like 1,000,000 cannonball shots or whatever. And I think it's cool with the milestones that it unlocks basically all the customization for the captain ships. So the trinkets, the ship decorations, the titles, all of that is unlocked through milestones. And the milestones also, which I mentioned earlier, is how you can buy new ships for like the same different type. So right now, I have gotten one of my sloops to legendary status, and then I have another sloop that I bought after I made the first one legendary. I did realize though that it's not really to your best interest to buy new ships immediately once you can. It's better to just take the ship that you have and keep playing on it, so that you can keep growing those ship-specific milestones. Because if you want to unlock a lot of like the different logbooks and all sorts of stuff that you can get with these different ships, then you have to play on that same ship. Because once you buy a new one, it basically restarts your milestones for the ship. Not your pirate, just the ship. Something else on captain ships is the captain logbook. I'll be honest, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed from this, I just think it's very limited. So I was like really excited for something bigger with this. I thought it was going to be a more impactful experience for me. But after the first month of the game being out, I really stopped paying attention to the captain's logbook because it just didn't have anything that was interesting to me in it. I think one thing that's very limiting is that you can't walk around your ship with it. So I can't like carry it and then walk over to my crewmates and say like, oh, look at this, turn the book around and show it to them like, hey, look, we did this many things today or whatever. You have to stand in that one specific spot on your ship where the voyage table is, and I don't know, it's just very limiting to me. There's also not much that you can add into it. You can pin 4 your milestones in it, but if you're gonna already pin those and you want to track them, it's a lot faster just to go to your pause menu, go to the pirate log in there, and then just check it on there, because you can pin even more milestones to that page. I think they could do more with this in the future. Another thing they did with the captain's logbook is you can actually sell other captain ships' logbooks to the Reaper's Bones. So if you sink another captain ship, their logbook will appear and you can go take that to Reaper's hideout and sell it to them. But honestly, I don't find it worth it. Like, I would never go to Reaper's hideout just to sell the logbook unless I had something else like a Reaper chest or other Reaper items that I wanted to sell there. Because the logbook is just not valuable. It really isn't. I think they did it so that people weren't like spawn camping people, I guess, like continually going after the same captain ship just to sink them. Maybe that's the reason they made it so not valuable, but it just, I'm not a big fan of it. I think if they wanted to make the captain's logbook more valuable in the future, they should like increase the price that you can get for selling it. Another gameplay addition we got was the stools. I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, I think stools are really cool. If you remember when the season first came out, we actually tried a new thing on the channel with the trivia, where we went on and we basically took the stools and we asked players trivia questions and we made it like a little game show. Definitely check that video out if you haven't seen it already. It was a lot of fun to make, and I definitely want to do more of those in the future when we get some more time. But stools were kind of just like this extra addition that was very similar to what we got in season 5 with like the storage crates and fireworks and stuff. It felt a lot like that kind of update. So I think it was just something that they've been working on for a while, and then they had it ready for season 7, so they just threw it in there. But I think they're really cool. I won't talk too long about this next one because I already talked about it at the beginning of the video, but all the different rebalancing they did for the Sloop and just all the other ships, I think are very good, and I think it's really helpful. Stuff like the mass damage I think is extremely beneficial for solo players and duo players that are fighting bigger ships, because it used to be that you might be fighting a brig, so it'd be a sloop versus brig. The sloop takes down one of the mast of the brig takes down the mast of the sloop, but the brig still has one mast up, so it can still spin and it just destroys the sloop. I think they were trying to fix that kind of balancing there. Now if only we could get 4 cannons on the sloop. That would be my dream. Alright, so moving on to our next big part of this season, and this is adventures. So adventures have been a very big thing since they got introduced at the beginning of this year, and this season is no different. I feel like this season, the adventures have been a lot better than in season 6. So our first adventure was A Hunter's Cry. Now, this one is a bit controversial, because if you remember with A Hunter's Cry, we go into the portal and we find like the twisted version of the Sea Dogs Tavern there. This is all very cool, and this I think is probably my favorite adventure that we've had out of all of them. And the reason for this, it just felt very unique. But the problem with it was people were getting spawn camped the entire time they were playing, and people weren't able to finish the adventure. And now there's a lot of mixed feelings about that online and stuff, where some people think it's valid that you can just go and ruin someone's day that's just trying to do the story, and whereas other people have the right opinion that, hey, if they're just trying to do the story and they don't have any loot on them, leave them alone. That's kind of where my thought is. But A Hunter's Cry was really great. I really enjoyed that adventure, and rescuing Merrick was a lot of fun, and I think it was a nice ending for Merrick's story in the Sea of Thieves. Moving on, we had the Siren's Prize. That one was okay. I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I think it took a long time because you had to go through 3 different Siren Shrines, and then you had to do the big battle on Plunder Valley. I think from a story perspective it was pretty cool, and it was nice to return to the Siren Shrines because I haven't really played them since last year. So that was a nice aspect to this, but in general I wouldn't say I was a big fan of this adventure. Then after that, I believe we had the Herald of the Flame. So the Herald of the Flame was another one that I thought was alright. I think the problem with the Herald of the Flame is similar to the Siren's Prize, where it just was too long for me. I think this would have been better if it was a little bit more direct. I loved all the stuff with Pendragon and following him around and what was happening with Stitcher Jim and stuff, but we all kind of knew where it was leading and stuff, so it wasn't like a big reveal in my mind. I think I would have just preferred maybe we discover that the ritual is happening and then we go directly to Molensand's Fortress to fight Stitcher Jim, who became the Herald of the Flame. And then we had the final adventure for this season, which should actually be ending on the day that this video comes out, so I don't know what the results are for it right now, but this adventure, Return of the Dam, I think is another really great adventure. This is another community choice, similar to the one we had towards the end of Season 6, and this I think is really cool leading up to Season 8, where we get to choose between Flameheart or Pendragon, who gets to return to the Sea of Thieves, and who gets locked away, exiled away into the Sea of the Dam. I'm very curious to see who wins this. I'm hoping that Flameheart wins. I'm on Team Flameheart right now, but I wouldn't be upset either way. I think that even if Flameheart loses this, I think he still will come back in some way. I don't think you can really get rid of him. One nice change that happened this season compared to last season is we actually had an event this season. So events basically went away when Adventures came out. We used to have an event every month. Now they've gone away in replacement for Adventures, which I think the Adventures are a better replacement, but I did miss like the little events they would do. Now this season they did an event for Halloween, which is called Tricksters and Treaters. In terms of Halloween events, it was probably the worst one we've ever had. They used to do Halloween really good. I believe the first Halloween they did in Sea of Thieves was when we got the Fort of the Dam. One of the best updates in the game ever. We've had other ones where there's like the Fury of the Dam, that was good. I don't remember which one it was, but there was one where you could get the Soul Flame costume and like the weapons and all sorts of stuff by playing the event. That one was really great. That had really great rewards with it. And I think either that one or the Fury of the Dam, maybe both, had special voyages made specifically for those events, which were really cool. This year's Halloween event was really nothing special. So basically, you had two teams, the Tricksters and the Treaters. Basically, if you were on the Treater side, you just did X marks the spot voyages from the quest board. And if you were a Trickster, you basically just went and buried gunpowder kegs on a random island. I literally just went to a skeleton fort that was inactive and just buried a bunch of gunpowder kegs and got the challenge done. And that was it. I think the cosmetics that came with this were really nice. They basically came with two hats that you can unlock. So you have like a Trickster's hat and a Treater's hat, and then depending on whose team won, you got a title. I think they changed it afterwards and both teams got a title if you unlocked either of them, because I think they had some problem on the back end. But other than that, yeah, it was just kind of lackluster. There was no real unique gameplay with this event, and the rewards, while I think looked nice, I would rather have like 2 nice looking rewards compared to like 5 unnice, rather than 5 rewards that I don't like and I would never wear. I really do like these hats and I'm wearing it on my pirate usually, but other than that, there's nothing really that special with this event. So there's 2 more things that I want to talk about in this video, and then we'll go ahead and end it. I don't know how long this video is so far, but I feel like it's probably pretty long. The first thing is, we had to address it. The whole beginning of the season was just kind of ruined because of how many bugs there were. Not just for like the new stuff that was in the game, but it was bugs that were affecting old stuff in the game. Like stuff with the Legend of the Veil, where they had to disable like the shipwreck graveyards for a while. The thing with the captain ship where the cosmetics weren't saving, which was a big part of this season, like where you own your captain ship and like the cosmetics stay attached to it. None of that was working. And this was going on for like the first month and a half that we were still having problems. It was terrible. And I think that really killed the vibe of this season, that no one really wanted to play anymore. I know I certainly was getting annoyed with the game, and I kind of just left the game for a bit. I really just stopped playing until the Herald of the Flame adventure came out, and then I started playing a bit more regularly after that. So along those lines, the last thing I want to talk about is kind of just the general vibe this season gave, and I don't think I'm alone. Looking online throughout the whole season on Twitter and even in the YouTube comments and stuff, looking at what y'all have commented on some of my videos in the past few months and stuff, I've seen the same kind of thought passed around through all of us, where we're not upset with the season and what we got. I think everyone's kind of on the same line that captain ships are really cool, the milestones are really great, Sovereign, even if they mess up the trading companies, are still a really nice quality of life addition. Everything we got this season was great, but we all are bored. I've seen that across the board, where a lot of people are just, they don't want to play. I think that's fine, honestly. I think us as gamers, when you're playing a game, I think the game's been out, what, 5 years now? Almost 5 years? You get bored, and that's fine. You take breaks. I think it's better to take breaks and not burn yourself out on the game. For this season, I was playing a lot of Spider-Man. It came out on PC at basically like the same time that this season launched, and I just was playing that mostly for the first like few months of season 7. I think that's good. It's healthy to take breaks from the games that you love in order to preserve that love. Because if you just continually play it, even when you're tired of it and you just want to do something else, that's not good for you. So what I'm trying to get across with that is that I think season 7 is great. The ventures were either good to great in quality. The content that we got in terms of captain ships, milestones, all that stuff, that was all great. And I honestly think the general support from the game was great too. I mean, the updates were coming in pretty fast. We had like literally the Herald of Flame and the Return of the Dam updates come like back to back within like a week of each other. That's crazy to me. I just think a lot of people were just bored with the season. I think part of that is because the season was delayed so much. And because it was delayed, it got pushed to basically where school was about to start for everyone. So everyone's already going back to school, which means everyone has a limited amount of time. And if you're choosing between, maybe you have an hour a week to play Sea of Thieves, which the game, in terms of gameplay, didn't really have anything changed this season. It was all stuff that was kind of like background stuff and cosmetic based. If you're choosing between that, which is basically the same experience you've had a bunch of times, or you could try into something new or play a game that you haven't played for a long time, you're probably going with that. And that's fine. I think Season 8 is really going to change that because we're getting new actual gameplay content and not just cosmetic stuff or background things that we've gotten in some of the previous seasons. I'm really excited for it. I think Season 7, on a whole, looking back at the whole thing, is a lot better than I initially thought going into this video. I thought I was going to be a bit more critical, but honestly I don't really have that much bad to say about the season other than the bugs at the beginning of it and the delays, which doesn't really affect the season as a whole to me too much. But that's all I have for this video. If you stuck to the end of it, thank you. I know this one's a lot longer than my typical videos, so thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, I'm guessing if you watched all the way to the end of this, you probably have, but make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. But until next time, thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see y'all in Season 8. Bye y'all.